Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
I'm deeply honored to have worn the cloth of this nation for 43 and a half years, and I'm humbled to have served as the 20th Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. But today is not about anyone up here on this stage. It's not about the President, the Secretary of Defense, me, CQ. It's not about us. It's about something much larger than all of us. It's about our democracy. It's about our republic. We are unique among the world's armies. We are unique among the world's militaries. We don't take an oath to a country. We don't take an oath to a tribe. We don't take an oath to a religion. We don't take an oath to a king or a queen or to a tyrant or a dictator. And we don't take an oath to a wannabe dictator. We don't take an oath to an individual. We take an oath to the Constitution, and we take an oath to the idea that is America, and we're willing to die to protect it. Those values and ideas are contained within the Constitution of the United States of America, which is the moral North Star for all of us who have the privilege of wearing the cloth of our nation. It is that document that all of us in uniform swear to protect and defend against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Those who sacrificed themselves on the altar of freedom in the last 2.5 centuries of this country must not have done so in vain. The millions wounded in our nation's wars did not sacrifice their limbs and shed their blood to see this great experiment in democracy perish from this earth. No, we the American people, we the American military, must never turn our back on those that came before us. And we will never turn our back on the Constitution. That is our North Star, that is who we are, and that is why we fight. Thank you, and may God bless our military, and may God bless the United States of America.
Are you ready? Hello everybody, it's Jeff. Good to see everybody here. Hope you all had a good few days since the last I sent a video out here. It's been really nice here. We had a good stretch of 7 days of good weather here. Remarkable. And today was no different. It was just blue, no clouds in the sky, temperature's just right, plenty of sun, you know, everybody's outside doing things, and you know, I didn't even have to wear a jacket, just wore a short sleeve shirt. Temperature's just great. Couldn't be better for fall, you know. But you know, it's going to start getting colder, obviously, as time goes on. What I'd like to do later this month maybe is to go down to Fort Knox, and you know, there's this great big tower next to the fort. It goes way up high, and you can get up there and you get to see the whole area, and it's beautiful. And I want to get some pictures of that. Maybe get a video or something which I could adapt here on the show here for, you know, opening theme or something. But I'd like to go down there and do that. I mean, it's been a while since I've been there. I mean, I've been there a number of times, but the last time I was there was probably like 5 or 6 years ago. So I feel like going down there because it's such a beautiful spot where this fort sits, and they have so many ways you can look at the area and capture the whole beauty of it. I might try and get pictures and maybe try to paint it, you know, paint some of it, maybe get you know, some, I don't know what kind of style you'd call it, but, you know, sort of a painting of that particular spot. You know, just for something to do when we get stuck inside here during the winter, which is what we all end up doing. We're like bears in this state. In the winter, we just hibernate in our homes and our apartments, and you know, we just we can't do much because it gets so cold out, or the roads are just too damn dangerous to be driving on. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It's very crazy, you know, when when winter comes around, what it's like, you know. But winter does have its own beauty, in a way. I don't know where I could go where I'm not going to freeze my ass off, you know, to take pictures and enjoy its beauty. But it does have some. I mean, I'll tell you something that was really pretty to see. It was a pain in the ass to go through it, but it was beautiful. Was that big ice storm we had in '98? It was a beautiful thing of seeing the trees all iced. It looked like they were all Christmas trees because the icicles were hanging down off of them, and it was beautiful, beautiful pictures, scenes of that ice storm. And people at that time took a lot of pictures of that big ice storm we had here back then. And you know, I saw the pictures at the Bangor State Fair. They had people had brought those photographs in, and they had them put up on a bulletin board, like inside the auditorium. And I mean, this is the old Civic Center, but they had set that all up so people could see it, and they took some really beautiful pictures of the ice storm. You know how it made our whole area look. To me, it kind of reminded me of caverns. I don't know if you've ever been inside a cavern before. I mean, there are some spots in the country where it's open to the public, where you can go inside and see caverns, and they have it lit up so you can see in there. And, you know, they got those big pillars and stuff coming down. It looks like ice, but it ain't. But that's what that kind of reminded me of. And I think that, you know, if people had taken the time, you know, if we had the electricity at the time, to be able to put some pretty lights out there around these certain spots where there was a lot of ice and stuff, you know, like different colored lights, it would have really brought out so much of it, you know. I mean, it seemed like it was a beautiful thing to see. It just was a pain in the ass because so many people went without power because, as ice is, it's heavy, and when it's heavy, it's going to cling to things, and when it clings to things, it brings things down, okay? And unfortunately, the weight of all the ice on the power lines was enough to bring the power lines down, and so, you know, it just it made life difficult for everybody here, so they weren't really interested in seeing how beautiful it was. But when they saw the pictures of it at the Bangor State Fair, I mean, I think a lot of people realized, oh, Jesus, that is nice. Look at that, you know. And we haven't had an ice storm like that since, but it doesn't mean we can't have another one at some point, you know. So what have last few days we've had in America here, especially when it comes to you know, accountability, you know, in the government. You know, all of Trump's corporate entities and business certificates were canceled. Was it yesterday? No, was it Thursday? I think they did that, or Friday. I can't remember which, but they had all been canceled by the judge, and because Trump had given false and misleading real estate values over the years. Now, we knew that. I think Hillary Clinton mentioned that when she was running for president against Trump. I don't know for sure, but I think I remember her mentioning something about some shifty numbers being used in his real estate values and stuff like that. But of course, she didn't have documents in her hands to show us, right? But she said that, which means, you know, she probably knew a lot about Trump because, like I said, Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton and Trump, I mean, they were kind of like people that, you know, they hung around in the same kind of, what do I want to say, social clubs or whatever the hell you want to call it. I don't know. But they, you know, they knew of each other, and I'm sure they've had more than a few conversations over the years. And so she picked up a lot of things about Trump, and she probably heard him say things that weren't right, you know, and just tucked that away in the back of her mind. But eventually, you know, like I said, it came out, and they had so much evidence about that you know, Trump's lawyers really couldn't fight it. Okay, I mean, it was they had no leg to stand on. There was no way they could argue that this thing, that it was untrue, that it was false. They couldn't. That they had the smoking gun. They had all the smoking guns, basically. Okay, and you know, IRS keeps pretty good records as far as I'm aware. And if the IRS has all this stuff, and they presented it to the judge and stuff, I mean, how are you going to fight that? How are you going to fight the IRS on that? Okay, you'd have to basically put the entire credibility of that organization on trial. Okay, and guess what? The big wigs in the government, or the rich people in this country, are not going to allow that to happen, because hey, they got ways of getting around the IRS. They're not going to let people find out, you know, about rich people, how they get around the tax laws and stuff like that, because that would totally blow up in their face, right? You know, they're not going to sacrifice their own livelihoods just to bail Trump out of a fucking problem. So the IRS is their evidence is beyond reproach. Okay, they cannot be challenged on it. So automatically, Trump is guilty. All right, and he didn't like that. He didn't like that at all. In fact, he's been pissed off all week. He's going after General Milley, I guess, saying, "Oh, he should be executed because he wouldn't do what I asked him to do to try and overturn the election and stuff like that, or these other things that he asked him to do." But what Milley deemed as being unethical. Okay, and Trump was asking him to do unethical things, and in a speech that Milley had given a couple days ago, he made a remark about how, you know, this is, I don't serve dictators or whatever, you know what I'm saying? He made a list of people he don't serve. What he serves is the Constitution, because when he takes his oath, when you take an oath to join the military, it's the Constitution you're swearing your allegiance to, not the fucking people who are, you know, in power, okay? That's not the way it works. And because he swore an allegiance to uphold the Constitution, Trump was asking him to break his oath, and that wasn't going to happen. I mean, not with a guy like him. Maybe some other general might have done that. Maybe they wouldn't have gave a shit, right? But when he took an oath, he didn't make an oath to Trump. Trump wasn't even president at the time, okay? So he had to take it. He took his oath to the Constitution. Trump just happened to be the next one in line to be in the White House, okay? And Trump's loyalties were hardly American, okay? Hardly American. And so the more Trump was going on his tirade about trying to get rid of the fucking results of the election and stuff like that, the worse General Milley was feeling about this guy, and how much of a mistake it was to have him in there. But he definitely, you know, he pointed out that, look, only a dictator, only a guy, a wannabe dictator, would be such a loudmouth to go out and say, "Oh, I want that man executed." That might work in Russia with Vladimir Putin. It's not gonna sell in this country. And Trump might be able to have some buyers there for a talk like that, but he's not going to convince everybody. All right. Most people know where the law is. They know what a president can and can't do. Okay. And even if Trump was president and he made a statement like that, I doubt people would have punished him for it, but they certainly would have been unhappy with it. Okay, with him saying something stupid like that. But it doesn't really matter if he's president or not. He was a president. Okay. And he still made a statement like this, which means it's kind of the same thing, right? If he was president and he said that, people would hate it. They still hated it when he said it, okay? So people ought to remember when he runs for president, they ought to take that clip of him saying that and just run that on there, and just to remind people, this is what you're looking for, right? For those of you that are going to support Trump, this is what you're looking at. This is what you're going to get, you know, if you vote for him and if he wins. You're going to get this kind of a fucking nut, you know? And I think, you know, a few days ago I was drawing parallels between Nazi Germany and today, okay? Trump America. Nazi Germany and Trump America. Okay? Hitler, remember Hindenburg, okay? Remember Hindenburg, okay? Who was in charge of Germany. He was an old man, but he had some respect, okay? He had respect, and he had a loyalty to his country, okay? Kind of like Joe Biden. He's an old man, okay? He has some respect and he has loyalty to his country, okay? Parallel right there, okay? I mean, there's a lot of differences, but I'm just drawing, you know, basics here. And then you got this loudmouth that's working his way up to power, okay? Using some nasty, nasty rhetoric, okay? Creates his own little movement. So far, it sounds like I'm talking about Trump, but that's also what Hitler was doing too, right? Again, more parallels, right? This is what people in Germany say they see happening in the United States right now, okay? I'm not getting all this just out of my own head. I've watched some news stuff on YouTube and things like that where people from the BBC go and they interview folks Germany and elsewhere, and you know, the Germans over there are seeing parallels too about what's happening here, and they're seeing that, you know, we're kind of following down the same fucking road they went, and you know, they're worried that, you know, we're going to end up becoming like a Nazi Germany, and it would be worse if we did, because our country has the most powerful military in the world, okay, and we have the most population. And the rest of the world really would not stand a chance. They'd all have to, you know, I don't know what would happen, but we could essentially subjugate the rest, you know, a lot of the free world if it does happen, you know, just saying. But it would be more dangerous for the United States, which means we have to be smarter than the rest of the world. We can't allow dictators to get into power because we have so much power to give the president. Okay, and that's why we have that separation of powers in our government, is to prevent, you know, one person gaining all the controls, basically. But as we go through time here, and you look at what's been done to our government over the many decades, centuries, or whatever, things have been chipped away. So that, you know, it's easier for one person to gain control as long as the party he belongs to is all united behind him or her, okay? Because if you can get your party in control of the most houses, the most areas, you essentially can control everything, okay? That's the flaw in the system, is that they never considered the fact that what if you get a whole party that's in control of everything, you know, and the other party is the minority? What do you do then? I mean, here we got a problem where the party of minority is in power, even though the majority has the White House and the Senate, but still they control the Supreme Court and Congress, and yet they seem to be calling all the shots, okay? They're calling all the shots. And, you know, we avoided a government shutdown only because the Republicans knew that the American public was not buying the fact that this was Biden's fault. They all knew where this was coming from. They knew why it was coming from them, because we're like, what, 13 months outside of a fucking election here, presidential election. They knew that this was an attempt at trying to smear Biden. It was so obvious. So they had to make a deal, right, to stop it, because they couldn't get the public. It would backfire on them because everyone's anger would be directed at the, you know, the speaker, you know, in the fucking Republican Party. That would hurt them. So yes, I kind of expected that if there was a shutdown, it wouldn't be a long shutdown, just be maybe a day or two. or at the most a week. But I couldn't see that they could sustain a shutdown for very long, because right now with Trump getting, charged and indicted and found guilty and blah, 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 over and over again, how do you think that's gonna, if they do the shutdown, how does that make them look good? With everything else that the party, because when you're investigating Trump, you're not just investigating Trump, you're investigating everybody that worked with Trump to do the things that he did, okay? Some things, just him. Some of the crimes were just him. A lot of crimes while he was president weren't just him, okay? And so whenever a charge is done, we're looking at multiple perpetrators here and a lot of victims. And so that hurts the party, the Trumplicans, it hurts them. And like I said, this shutdown would have hurt them a lot, especially the longer it would have went. Okay, it would have been harder and harder for people to buy into the fact that this is Biden's fault. Okay, because the truth is that the Republicans made a deal with Biden back in March, or was it? Yeah, well, I think it was March, to avert the debt ceiling problem. Okay, and the deal required that later this year the Republicans were going to have something all set up in order to avoid a government shutdown, and they didn't do it. Okay, they waffled around all fucking summer, did nothing, okay, until the day was right up to the last minute, and they were at each other's throats in the Congress to work out some kind of an arrangement, because you got some people that say, yes, let's make a deal, let's get it done. They didn't want this shutdown. The other side saying, no, I want it this way, I want it that way, and they were trying. So the Republicans were at a clash with each other, while the Democrats were sitting there tapping their fingers on the table, waiting for them to make up their minds, okay? And so I think, like what I said, it came down to, well, the people, all the polling or whatever the hell we're doing to figure out these things out, they're showing that people aren't buying the fact that Biden's responsible for this. They know we are. So let's just make a deal here and avoid and dodge this bullet, because it's going to hurt us in some, in like a year from now or so. People are going to remember this. So they had to. It was really no choice. So we had that going on this week. And so it was, a lot of things. And then plus we had Dianne Feinstein. She passed away at 90 years old. And I it's sad that she's passed away, but something what else is sad? That she didn't get a chance to retire and enjoy the last 20 years of her life. She spent all her life fighting in the goddamn government, right to the point where she physically or mentally, whatever, wasn't really up to the task anymore. And before they could do anything for her, she died. It reminds me of the way life used to be in this country back in the fucking, before World War II, how people would work till they dropped, at old age. They didn't have any social security or anything like that back then for these people, so they had to work until they died. There was no reason for her to die working like that, okay? The Democrats were keeping her working because they didn't want to lose her seat. They were so worried about losing their grip on their fucking of the Senate. They couldn't afford to lose her, okay? And I'm thinking, it's not up to you to decide, okay? If it's her time to retire, then let her fucking retire, If you're going to lose control of the goddamn Senate, then so be it. That's your fucking problem, because you didn't do a good enough job to win a fucking majority in that house, in that fucking seat of power. You should have done better, okay? There's no reason in the world why the Senate had just such a small margin between dominance over the Republican Party there, okay? Especially with a guy like Trump who was in power. They didn't do a good enough job running for their seats. Now, some will say, well, they redistricted and all this. Yeah, sure, they did, okay? Again, that's another problem. The Democrats should have been on their ass about that damn redistricting crap. Okay, why they sit back and allow that to go on, I don't know. I really don't know. It's not right. That's cheating before the fact. That's what I call that. It's like before you play chess, you take all the pieces and you make them into queens, and then you sit down and play chess. That's cheating. Okay, I don't care if you do it while you're playing or you're doing it after you're playing. Even before you're playing, that's still cheating. Okay, that cannot be allowed in our system of government. When maybe they should just stop districting, period. Okay, and just let these votes count as they are. One person, one vote. No matter where the fuck you live in that state, one person, one vote gets counted. Enough of these little details to skew the fucking issue and to murk up the waters here. Okay, let's make this above board as much as we can and honest. I mean, do you see people that use the election system in their jobs, or when the kids are voting for their what do they call them, the student council leadership? Do you see these people using those little murky details in there to try to get an advantage over this? No, of course not. It's one person, one vote, and it's worked that way for decades and decades. That's the way they do it. If it's good enough for them, it should be good enough for the country, right? All right, let's go to commercial break. We'll be right back.
This is me.
This is me.
This is me!
This is me.
I'm Alex Curtis. I'm a lobsterman in Maine, and this is me.
I'm Ruth McLaughlin, and this is me.
I'm Eric Hopkins. I'm an artist, and this is me.
This is me.
Me.
This is me.
This is me.
This is me.
At the end of the journey, the main thing is you, original.
For 248 years, the United States Marine Corps has valiantly defended this country against foreign enemies. The Marine Corps' legendary courage, determination, and skill on the battlefield leaves our enemies in fear and our allies in awe. Marines of every race, creed, and color have sworn a sacred oath to protect our Constitution. They fought, bled, and died for this country. Today, the Marine Corps faces a domestic enemy, a small man with a big mouth, determined to destroy the Corps for his petty political agenda. Tommy Tuberville is creating a national security nightmare. Who wins from Tuberville's attack on the Marine Corps? China, ISIS, Vladimir Putin. Tommy Tuberville insults every Marine who ever served, and he puts the men and women of the Marine Corps on the line in danger. Every U.S. Marine is a patriot. Tommy Tuberville is a traitor.
He's too old. He's out of touch, losing his marbles at an alarming rate.
They have sinks where no water comes out. You turn it on, no water comes out. You want to wash your hands, right?
Yeah.
And you've seen this, and you turn on the sink, and it's very little.
I do want to remind everybody, this is the guy that worked with the former Klansman.
I will be Donald Trump's most loyal advocate to make sure his nominees go to the Supreme Court.
Full of his struggles and ramblings and rantings and mumbling and bumbling and stumbling. You decide. Take a look.
They've deliberately surrendered our border to vicious coyotes and drug smugglers. I mean, these drug smugglers, the smuggler.
I find it awkward. I find it embarrassing. He's really in the early stages of some kind of senile dementia.
I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges of the investigation, the beginnings.
It's more than awkward and embarrassing. It's actually dangerous. Having someone with his mental state, to me, is terrifying.
She speaks in rhyme.
In rhyme? What do you...
Well, the way she talks, the bus will go here and then the bus will go there, because that's what buses do. It's weird.
He can't finish a sentence.
Anonymous really an ominous.
The man doesn't know where he's going. He doesn't know where the exit is. He's not sure how to get through a speech.
Mr. President, you need to sign it.
Old, outdated, retire, elderly, aging, senile, dementia, slow, confused, idiot, ignorant, sleepy, gaff, bumbling, bad, terrible, disappointing, joke, profanity.
Being corrupt is bad. Being corrupt and senile is even worse.
Dear Republicans, how can Joe Biden take your guns away?
He's going to take your guns away, you know that, right? Biden.
Didn't Barack Obama take them away in 2008 and 2012?
Obama wants your guns. How is that anything but fear-mongering?
It is actually quite accurate.
There have been more guns sold since I've been president than just about any time in U.S. history.
Oh, right. It was just another Republican lie. It never happened. Donald Trump and the Republicans have been using this fake threat for decades. And while we're clearing up BS, Joe Biden doesn't want to defund the police.
I'm the only one who's talked about increasing police budgets.
Joe Biden isn't soft on border security. Joe Biden won't raise your taxes unless you make over $400,000.
I'm really rich.
And remember all those Hillary Clinton she's dying stories from 2016?
She can't make it 15 feet to her car. Give me a break.
More BS.
I do have the unique experience of having shared a debate stage 3 times with Donald Trump, and I know that he will do or say anything.
She's fine.
Holy fuck.
Were you just checking out her ass?
No, I wasn't.
You know what? Fuck this.
Wait, babe, calm down. Oh my god. Mary! I am sorry!
Be a part of the entertainment value of a lifetime.
I loved it.
It was the best performance I've seen in a lifetime.
I loved the show. I liked it very much. He's a very entertaining man. It's well worth the money.
Now appearing in Charlottetown, coming to Halifax November 6th to the 18th, and St. John November 20th through the 26th.
Okay, I want to welcome back. I want to discuss the issue with the unions and stuff like that, because also this week there was something that could be described as really revealing of the Trump party, the Trumplicans. Okay, if you recall, Joe Biden, the first president, I think, where they said in history, went to a strike, I guess, at an United Auto Workers strike, and he went there and he gave a speech to the people there, showing his support for the strikers, right? Which is pretty damning for, for the people that they're striking against, right? But he went down there to offer his support. You know, he's Biden's old school, okay? He goes way back to, you know, the strikes and stuff like that, unions. So he understands, you know, the value of unions and things like that. And he's also seen some of the bad sides of unions too. But I think he agrees that there's more of a benefit than there is a problem with it. If the unions are run correctly, they can be a benefit. And to make a union really work well is to have proper oversight of the leadership that runs the unions to make sure that they're doing the right thing, you know, and not just stealing your money. But yeah, he's one of those guys. He's going through that. Now, Trump saw that, and he got jealous, I guess you could say, or pissed. I'm not sure what motivated him in this instance, because I wouldn't think that he would get all that pissed, but he decided to go to a non-union plant, you know, a place that doesn't have unions, to give a speech there with his supporters there. And I'm thinking, well, Donald Trump is the kind of guy that wouldn't like unions anyway, because he's a businessman, right? And if he's running a business and there's a union there, he's not going to be too happy with that. He's not. I wouldn't think Trump is a pro-union person. Okay, I may be wrong. I may be dead wrong about that. I don't know. He doesn't strike me as a guy that would really be there to help out anybody if they needed it. Okay, and for a union, that's what they do primarily. Is if the workers feel like they need to be given more pay, or they need some health benefits or something, so that way they can make it worth their while to come and work. They stand there and negotiate for them, so that way they have a better chance at creating a bargain or a compromise or something like that both sides can live with. And so Trump is not a guy that compromises for anything. I don't think that word even would fit in his definition on a character. You know, Trump isn't a compromiser. He don't even compromise with a fucking judge when it tells him, it puts a gag order on him. He won't even listen to that. So how the hell are you going to get a guy like that to listen to, you know, your workers not being happy and needing some help from you to, you know, to make things easier for them? Is he really going to be there for you for that? I wouldn't think so. So why he went down there to talk to them to try to sound like he's pro-union really is sort of a funny thing. Now, I'm going to read this article here about that, and this article comes from The Big Picture, and it's written by Todd Beaton, and this was published on my birthday, September the 28th, and turned 52. Hey, stop jumping. Jesus. Okay, and it starts off. On Tuesday, President Biden made history as the first sitting president to ever visit striking workers on a picket line. And not only did the president join the union auto workers on that Detroit picket line, he stood with them in every sense of the word, in unambiguous solidarity. Smokey! A day later, Donald Trump held an invitatorial rally at a non-union auto parts shop on the outskirts of Detroit that has nothing to do with the big three automakers. To hear Trump tell it, he was visiting Michigan to support the auto workers, but as Alex Press of Jacobin makes clear, quote, holding such a rally during a strike is the opposite of showing solidarity with union workers, unquote. Yet the trend over the past few election cycles has seen Trump and the Republican Party broadly making gains among working class voters, with Trump even gaining in support among working class voters of color since 2020. And while many in the media ate up Trump's announcement that he would be visiting auto workers for a rally this week, playing into his performance faux populism, Trump's play may be backfiring. By pitting Trump's alleged pro-worker bona fides against Biden's, Trump has essentially provided Biden with the perfect opportunity to to expose the stark contrast that exists between Biden's long-standing support for workers' rights and Trump's actual hostility toward them. Like I was saying. The vastly different ways Biden and Trump have approached the UAW strike is a perfect representation of that gap. And Biden is taking the opportunity to show workers who he is. As The Guardian's Stephen Greenhouse told Chris Hayes on MSNBC Tuesday night after Biden's appearance with auto workers in Detroit, quote, "I think he very much made a statement to workers generally. He said corporations had record profits. Wall Street is going through the roof, but so many workers think, I'm falling behind. This is terrible. Something is really broken. So I think when Biden said companies are doing incredibly well, you should be doing incredibly well too." That's a statement not just to union members, but to every American worker, unquote. The question remains, will voters get the message in time for 2024? While President Biden's appearance on the picket line on Tuesday was historic, his presence there really should have come as no surprise to anyone who knows Biden's history. Joe Biden hails from a working-class Irish-American family who has long supported labor, even earning him the moniker Union Joe, as Biden said in his Labor Day speech a few weeks ago, which he gave in his hometown of Scranton, Pennsylvania. Quote, "You know, there are a lot of politicians in this country who don't know how to say the word union. They talk about labor, but they don't say union. I'm proud to say union. I'm proud to be the most pro-union president in American history," unquote. On Tuesday, as Biden joined arms with dozens of United Auto Workers outside a GM parts distribution center, he echoed this sentiment unequivocally, expressing solidarity with the workers, saying, quote, "Wall Street didn't build this country. The middle class built this country. The unions built the middle class. That's a fact. Let's keep going. You deserve what you've earned, and you've earned a hell of a lot more than you're getting paid now," unquote. According to Reuters, when asked if workers should get the same 40% increase automaker CEOs have gotten, Biden responded, quote, "Yes, I think they should be able to bargain for that," unquote. Union Joe indeed. Contrast this with Donald Trump's rally, which was held at Drake Enterprises, a non-union truck parts shop, and was reportedly an invite-only event coordinated by the notoriously anti-union National Right to Work Committee. Far from supporting workers by headlining that rally, Trump was doing the bidding of the bosses, even as he urged rally attendees to get the UAW to support his 2024 run. The fact is, of course, that any workers at that non-union shop would not be union members, the well-placed signs in the crowd notwithstanding. The whole thing was staged, as Detroit News' Craig Maurer confirmed in a post on X, which used to be called Twitter. So remember, Twitter is called X now. So a person in the crowd within a, quote, union members for Trump, unquote, sign acknowledged she wasn't a union member. A person with an, quote, auto workers for Trump, unquote, sign said he wasn't an auto worker, which tracks if you look at his history. Sean Fain, president of the United Auto Workers, went on CNN Wednesday to dismantle the entire notion that Trump is some sort of working class hero. Quote, "His track record speaks for itself. In 2008, during the Great Recession, he blamed UAW members. He blamed our contracts for everything that was wrong with these companies. That's a complete lie. In 2015, when he was running for president, he talked about doing a rotation, taking all these good-paying jobs in the Midwest and moving them somewhere in the South where people work for less money, and then to make people beg for their jobs back at lower wages." Quote, "And the ultimate show of his how much he cares about our workers was in 2019 when he was the president of the United States. Where was he then? GM, our workers at GM were on strike for 60 days. It's 2 months. They were out there on the picket lines. I didn't see him hold a rally. I didn't see him stand up at the picket line, and I sure as hell didn't hear him comment about it. He's missing in action," unquote. And when asked if he would meet with Trump when he was in Detroit, Fain made it clear, quote, "I see no point in meeting with him because I don't think the man has any bit of care about what our workers stand for, what the working class stands for. He serves the billionaires class, and that's what's wrong with this country," unquote. Put another way, Stephen Greenhouse compiled a list of all the anti-worker policy positions Trump championed in his 4 short years as president, and yeah, it's a lot. But if anything sums up the difference between Joe Biden's rally and the picket line with union members and Donald Trump's anti-union rally, it's the split screen posted by the New York Democrat Congressman Jamal Bowman. And let me see if I can show you that screen here. Split screen. Should I move closer? Let's get it. Okay. Well, okay. One of the reasons Joe Biden felt empowered to take such a historic step and stand with the striking workers in Detroit this week is that the public sentiment is very much on the side of workers. Not only is support for the labor unions at its highest point in decades, with 71% approval according to Gallup, the highest level since 1965. That's saying a lot there, people. But per a recent Reuters poll, the UAW strike enjoys 58% approval, including 48% of Republicans. And the SAG-AFTRA and WGA strikes have 60% approval, including 46% of Republicans. With numbers like this, it's no wonder that so far in 2023, 362,000 workers have gone on strike, as compared to just 36,000 in all of 2021. Labor is very much having a moment. Despite this, some Republican politicians still think it's politically advantageous to bash unions and their members, particularly those who strike. Well, hey, who's going to say Republicans have been doing anything smart lately, right? Take Senator Tim Scott, one of the top candidates running for the GOP nomination for president, who suggested any worker who goes on strike should be fired. Quote, "Ronald Reagan gave us a great example of federal employees, when federal employees decided they were going to strike, he said, 'You strike, you're fired.' Simple concept to me. To the extent that we can use that once again, absolutely," unquote. Really? They really think that what happened back then was a good thing? That when he... They didn't learn nothing from the 80s, did they? This led the United Auto Workers to file a complaint against Scott with the National Labor Relations Board for threatening employees with adverse consequences if they engaged in protected, concerted activity. After initially doubling down on his remarks, Scott ended up backing away from them during Wednesday night's second GOP debate, saying instead that the question was irrelevant since a president didn't have the power to fire workers anyway. Oh, so Reagan did, right? Point unions. For Governor Nikki Haley, it's telling that she felt calling Joe Biden the most pro-union president during a recent interview was a dig. This from the person who proudly identified as a union buster when she was governor of South Carolina, and now firmly sides with corporations over workers, telling Fox News, quote, "It tells you when you have the most pro-union president, and he touts that, he is emboldening the unions. This is what you get. And I'll tell you who pays for it is the taxpayers. The union is asking for a 40% raise. The companies have come back with a 20% raise. I think any of the taxpayers would love to have a 20% raise and think that's great, but the problem is we're all going to suffer from this," unquote. Scott and Haley, of course, both come from South Carolina, which is one of the 27 states identified as a right-to-work state, where conservative groups such as the Chamber of Commerce and American Legislative Exchange Council, ALEC, have pushed right-wing legislators to pass anti-union measures to starve unions and funding and thus make them less effective at bargaining for workers. As Robert Reich makes clear, the point of right-to-work laws is to destroy unions, full stop. As a result, workers in right-to-work states make 15% less than in other states, are less likely to have health care, have higher workplace fatality rates as well as higher rates of poverty and infant mortality. Not shockingly, according to the National Right to Work Committee, a map of these so-called quote unquote right to work states comes close to tracking with a presidential electoral college map, which most traditional red states have successfully passed these anti-union laws. One footnote to this graph is that in March of 2023, Michigan Democrats, having just taken the majorities of both houses of the state legislatures last November, repealed Michigan's 11-year-old right-to-work law. Once that repeal makes effect next month, the number of the right-to-work states will go from 27 to 26. And yes, the vote was along party lines, which Democrats siding with unions and workers. In spite of this clear divide on policy, it's evident that Biden specifically and Democrats more broadly have lost their lock on working-class voters. As far back as 2012, this trend of working-class voters defecting from the Democrat Party was already well underway. As the Brookings Institute framed it at this time, quote, perhaps the most dominant narrative over the past several election cycles is the idea that Democrats lost the white working class who focus on cultural issues, gods, guns, and gays, at the expense of their economic self-interest, unquote. Robert Reich, who served as labor secretary under President Clinton, went further in a 2016 post-election piece in The Guardian, pinning the blame for this trend squarely on Clinton and Obama, policies that sent a very clear message that Democrats were the party of the elites. And so the foundation for Trump had been inadvertently laid by Democrats themselves. Quote, the Democratic Party once represented the working class, but over the last three decades, the party has been taken over by Washington-based fundraisers, bundlers, and analysts and pollsters who have focused instead on raising campaign money from corporate and Wall Street executives and getting votes from upper-middle-class households in swing suburbs, unquote. In the story of 2016 was the inevitable electoral consequence of this shift of white working-class voters away from the Democrat Party. Then 2020 saw the next step in that trend. An analysis by Jacobin of the results of the 2020 presidential election found that, quote, working class voters shifted to the right across all racial groups, unquote. And now, an August 2023 analysis by Axios of a New York Times Siena poll confirmed this trend with the headline, quote, Biden loses ground with working class black Latino voters, unquote. Whereas Joe Biden beat Trump by 48% among non-white working-class voters in 2020, the August 2023 New York Times Siena poll found Biden leading by just 16%, 49%, 33%. At Harris X poll from earlier this year states the problem plainly, quote, 40% of self-identified working-class voters said they feel like the Republican Party best represents their interests and views, while 36% of these voters preferred the Democrat Party. A result that was confirmed by a recent Morning Consult poll, which found that, quote, Democrats' edge over GOP on caring about people like me has vanished, unquote. This, of course, baffles those on the left who see Trump as an inveterate con man who is the personification of the billionaire class and big corporate interests. That's who he took care of during his presidency, even as he put on his false populist act. The good news is that Joe Biden, contrary to most expectations, has represented a genuine shift away from the neoliberalism of the past two Democratic presidents with his populist economic and labor policies. Biden's visit to the Detroit picket line is an extension of that shift, and according to Stephen Greenhouse during his appearance on All and With Chris Hayes Tuesday night, was an important high-profile step in reframing the Democratic Party for working-class voters. Quote, usually presidents either side with management or don't want to get involved, and I think Joe Biden wanted to make a very big statement. He wanted to show that this is a new Democrat Party. We're not the wine and cheese Democratic Party that Republicans mock. We're the party that fights for workers. Now we just have to help ensure that voters get that message. So, yeah, it's the Democrats kind of did go a little off the rails, okay, over the years and stuff, and you know, I'm not sure why, unless it was because they were trying to get more money for the party, which would explain why they were hanging around with the elites more, okay? And people, members of the Democrat Party, the voters, they didn't like that, okay? Because look, the Democrats are fighting against the elites, the wealthy. And to see the party that's supposed to be on your side mingling with the enemy, as it were, is really disheartening and really creates a lot of anger out there. Just as much as a Republican seeing one of their own hanging around with a Democrat all the time. The minute they'd label him a moderate and they would just primary his ass, right? Same thing happens on our side. We don't want to see them mingling with these people that are really against us, and then turn around and say, well, we're for you, okay? But the contrast about Biden visiting the union workers and Trump visiting, I don't even know if they were really union workers or not. He said it was an invite-only rally, okay? So if you were invited to this rally, I don't think you were a union worker at all. You were just asked to be there, you know? So here he was sort of making a fake rally for unions when he has no history of ever siding with them. And you got Biden, comes from a family of union people and supported union people. I mean, there couldn't have been a better person, a better president at that time to actually stand opposite of Trump, okay? A person on one side of the spectrum and a person on the other side of the spectrum. Such a contrast, okay? He would be the only person that could make that statement by saying that we want the voters to get the message, okay? That let me remind you people who Biden is, okay? And I don't know how much more it would take to get these Democrats who, I don't know if they could say they left the party, but lost their faith in the party, what it would take to get them to come back to it. You know, because people are so cynical these days across the board on, you know, things like that. It would just be very difficult to make them see reason, you know. They'd have to see a lot of progress from the Democrat Party probably, and some indication that they learned their lesson and they're not, you know, going to don't turn their backs on you. They'd have to see a lot for them to, you know, say, well, okay, I'm going to come back. You know, right now you got a lot of Republicans in that boat right now where they've lost their party. They don't have a genuine Republican Party to be a member of anymore because it's been taken over by the maggots. Okay, they control that party now. So I guess they feel like, you know, they're without an organization to come together at, you know, and that can agree on something. And the GOP, as it's been called, is very much been usurped by MAGA, and that's why people like Mitt Romney have left that party, because it's just, you know, it's ridiculous. You know, there's no point in being there. You're not going to get what you want. They don't see you as a real Republican. They call him a rhino, right? So his career is over, you know, and it's not going to change quick enough in his lifetime to ever go back the way it was. I don't think he sees that ever happening while he's still alive. So a lot of people feel like him that have left the party, and whatever. I don't know if they joined Democrat or they went independent. I don't know. I really don't know. But it's not good for the Republican Party if they're looking to get as many votes as they can to beat Biden when their party is divided like this. And like I said, people think that in the Republican Party that it isn't divided. It is very much divided. It's more divided than it's ever been. Okay, and it's from years and years of the people extremists getting their voices heard in this party, of people who are, you know, for some reason focused on the dingbats that speak the loudest. Okay, you get somebody that doesn't know a goddamn thing about government, and he or she has a gift to gab. They'll stand and rally behind that person against all odds. Why? You know, doesn't intelligence or experience count for anything anymore in that party, or is it just, you know, they would rather follow Nimrods and stuff like that, you know, because hey, they're more entertaining or something? Is that really what it's all about? It's just playing games, you know? I don't know. Anyway, I just, like I said, you know, this thing about the union thing was something I wanted to hit on, because you know, unions are an issue. You know, it's sort of a hot potato issue if you think about it in this country, because you got people on both sides. You got people say that unions kind of ruined everything for business in this country, and then the other side that says, well, businesses made it this way for themselves by trying to stick it to the workers and expecting them to work for less. You know, what were they to do? So I don't know if that debate will ever end. All I can say is that time will tell, and what happens from here on out will tell too. I mean, if we see that companies start to bend over a little bit and give people more money, and people might feel better about their jobs, it might create prosperity. Who knows, right? Okay, so anyone, this is it for today, and I'm gonna call it enough for you for tonight. So please subscribe and comment, and keep your ears open for COVID-19 news. And vaccinations for the new variant are out there. So if you're going to get one, take the time to go get it. And subscribe and comment, and you know, treat each other nice out there. It's important for everybody, especially we're coming in on the family holidays. And it should be everyone's point here to try to be kind to each other, because you know, we won't want to ruin the holidays because of some strife. You know, just keep that in mind. You know, it's important that way. So take care, everybody, and I'll talk to you later.